Buren. We'll be live from the Van Buren National Historic Site in Kinderhook, New York, to learn more about our 8th president. American Presidents, Life Portraits, C-SPAN's 20th anniversary series. Now a look at Serbian news coverage of Day 34 of NATO airstrikes on Yugoslavia from government-controlled Radio Television Serbia in Belgrade. This portion of the news was recorded today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern and translated here at C-SPAN in Washington, D.C. It's 35 minutes.
Radio Television Serbia. Good evening. President of the Republic Slobodan Milošević met today with the President of the International Red Cross Committee, Kornelija Samaruka. In a very open dialogue that concerned huge humanitarian problems caused by NATO bombing of the peoples of Yugoslavia, President Milošević stated that as far as Yugoslavia is concerned, there are no obstacles for the Red Cross Committee workers to conduct their work in the territory of Yugoslavia. The only obstacle to their work is the incessant bombing of civilian targets, due to which at the beginning of the aggression, Red Cross had to leave the area of Kosovo and Metohija. Due to bombing, a large number of people in that area left their homes regardless of their ethnic and religious background. The authorities are doing everything they can in order to create conditions for normal life, but as long as the NATO aggression is underway, obviously a large number of people will not want to return to their homes. Despite the freedom of movement and security which will be guaranteed to citizens after the terrorist gangs are incapacitated, the return of the representatives of International Red Cross to this area would surely contribute to a greater and faster resolution of the humanitarian problems. Foreign Minister Zvedan Ivanovic was present at the meeting. President of the Republic, Slobodan Milošević, in honor of April 27th, the National Day of Yugoslavia, issued a decree granting amnesty to a number of convicted individuals. This was stated from the President's cabinet. President of Serbia, Milan Milutinovic, sent to Slobodan Milošević his warmest greetings on the eve of the National Day. Please accept my congratulations on the eve of April 27th, the National Day of Federal Republic of Yugoslavia. We are celebrating this holiday this year under unprecedented circumstances caused by criminal aggression against people of Yugoslavia who are bravely defending freedom, integrity and sovereignty of their country. I'm convinced that this just struggle will be successful because the peace is inseparable from freedom, which means a lot to this current generation as it meant a lot to the older generations. Momir Bulatovic, Federal Prime Minister, in his greetings addressed to Slobodan Milošević, stated that despite NATO aggression, our country is united and decisive to defend its freedom. You, as Commander-in-Chief, are leading this national front of resistance as a person who symbolizes the national unity. Chairman of Serbian Parliament, Dragan Tomic, congratulated President Milošević with these words: "Today we are fighting for the survival of our people and our country who were unjustly attacked by the aggressor. April 27 is a symbol of all those values we are fighting for today, which will not be destroyed by the aggressor." In a letter addressed to President Milošević, the citizens of our country, addressed by Prime Minister of Serbia, Mirko Marjanović, the following was stated: "Under your leadership, our people for over a month now have been defending our country's freedom, sovereignty and territorial integrity from the most brutal NATO aggression." Lieutenant Colonel General Ojdanić, Commander of Joint Chiefs of Staff, stated in his address that members of Yugoslav Army, committed to the just cause of our struggle, encouraged by the unity and support of our people, express a high level of patriotism, professionalism and morale. In the greetings of the Secretary General of Socialist Party of Serbia, Gorica Gajevic, the following was stated: the centuries-old aspiration of peoples of Serbia and Montenegro to live together in one state are further confirmed in their joint defense against NATO aggression. These aspirations are further reinforced by the unity of all the citizens of Yugoslavia. NATO aviation on the 34th day of the aggression against Yugoslavia bombed several civilian targets throughout the country in Novi Sad, Sombor, Valjevo, and Pristina. Exactly at 1:20 this morning, Novi Sad was once again severely attacked. For the fourth time, they targeted Žeželjev Bridge. A number of aggressor planes flying in from Bosnia and Croatia attacked the bridge that was already severely damaged. There were 6 detonations, followed by the fire, after which the last bridge in Novi Sad fell into the Danube. Air defense was active, and that prevented greater damage. Due to the gravity of this attacks, nearby civilian buildings and cars were damaged. Several people were injured, and several suffered from post-traumatic stress. In village Pribičević near Valjevo, the farms of Milorad and Tomislav Živković and Milovan Mirković were targeted. This crime was repeated once again last night. They hit exactly the same spots as before. Near the famous Podgorina Hill in Valjevo are the barracks housing construction workers of the Plamun Construction Company, who are now building the railway between Valjevo and Loznica. They did not spare them either. Aggressor once again bombed civilian sites in Kosovo. This time they targeted an Albanian village, Velika Dobrinja, near Lipljane. Missiles launched from NATO warplanes hit the house of Mehmet Lukic, killing a 6-year-old and seriously injuring 4 other children. I was inside when I heard the bombing. When I came out, the children were already injured, and I didn't really know what happened. The planes started flying this morning. They were just flying all over all the time, bombing the villages around here. Did this bomb, was this dropped from the plane? Where else could it have dropped from? Did you hear the planes? Yes, we heard the planes, and the bomb was dropped, and I came out and I saw that my daughter was injured. I picked her up, and there were 4 other injured children. Are there any military targets or police targets near the village? No, none at all. And why do you think NATO is targeting your village? This is a peaceful village. It's a purely Albanian village. Do you think that they're trying to scare you, these NATO people? What else are they trying to do? They're just trying to scare off the people and make them run away. They're also trying to kill people. What do you think needs to be done now? This bombing needs to be stopped so that people are not killed. They are shooting to kill people, nothing else. NATO aviation launched 8 missiles in the area southwest and northeast of Pristina. They dropped 6 bombs on civilian airport Slatina, and 2 missiles were launched at the area of Grmija. They also bombed the area near Kosovsko Mitrovac. 1 missile exploded near the village of Grabovac, and near midnight, the planes dropped a bomb near the village Ugljare, near Simpo Furniture Factory. There were no injured, but there's a great damage. Albanian terrorists from Kosovo, as reported by TV Tirana, condemned to death the leader of Kosovo Albanians, Ibrahim Rugova. This is viewed as a desperate act on behalf of terrorists who lost their support among Kosovo Albanians. And they're trying to remove Rugova, who was and is an indisputable leader of Kosovo Albanians, and he's committed to peaceful resolution of Kosovo problem. Terrorists are greatly concerned by the fact that after the meeting between Rugova and Milošević, a large number of Albanians who went into exile due to NATO bombing or due to pressure from terrorists came back to their home, and thus they were not able to manipulate them anymore. Our colleagues who were killed during the bombing of Radio Television Serbia building were buried today in Belgrade. These heroes of our profession and nation were buried in the presence of their family, relatives, colleagues, and a large number of citizens of Belgrade. The remains of the employees of Radio Television Serbia who were killed in bombing were escorted today from the funeral home in Deligradska Street. Friends, relatives, colleagues, and citizens were present there to give them their last regards. The following were killed: Jelica Muliplak, Milovan Janković, Dragan Tasić, Dejan Marković, Slobodan Jontić, Milan Joksimović, and Slaviša Stevanović. On behalf of all of the employees of Radio Television Serbia, Director of RTS, Dragoljub Milanović, gave a eulogy. The enemy shot at all of us, all of 7,000 of employees, and they killed the most brave ones. Some were 1 hour away from death. But our colleagues who are being buried today could not be saved from death, unfortunately. This is why their legacy will be eternal. Today, we are escorting them into legend, into history. This is a war between sanity and insanity, light and darkness, good and evil. As always, we know who will triumph, and this is why the aggressor targeted knowledge, profession, ethics, patriotism, and honor. If in this great pain we are able to muster meaningful thought, then it would be this one. This murderous act is so atrocious that it should put to shame the Statue of Liberty in New York. And as for the White House is concerned, on the eve of the new millennium, it is becoming not only a black house, but a symbol of evil. The employees that were killed when the building of RTS was bombed were buried today in several graveyards in Belgrade. The bodies of 2 of our colleagues were removed from the rubble of the RTS building. The identity of the victim, Slaviša Stevanović, born in 1965, satellite broadcasting expert. The funeral will be held tomorrow at 1 p.m. Another victim was Aleksandar Delitic, born in 1968, cameraman of Radio Television Serbia. The information on his funeral shall be announced at a later time. Unfortunately, this tragic number will not be final because 8 of the employees are still not accounted for at this time. But it is known that at the moment of bombing, they were at work. 4 of the injured employees are still kept at the hospital. The members of Yugoslav Army, police, and construction workers are still working on clearing the rubble of this civilian target that was destroyed in this aggression against Yugoslavia. Association of Journalists from Holland, Greece, Russia, and Bulgaria unanimously condemned the bombing of the Radio Television of Serbia building. The Greek Association requested that NATO immediately stop bombing and killing civilians of Yugoslavia. Russian Association considers bombing of Serbian television an attack against people who are trying to show the world what the truth in the Balkans is. The Association of Bulgarian Journalists is protesting against the violation of the rights of journalists in Yugoslavia. They have spoken out against NATO aggression and in support of a peaceful resolution. Minister for Information of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, met today with the directors and editors-in-chief of electronic media, and he condemned NATO aggression. Mr. Vučić, directors and chief editors of all major electronic media who were present, expressed their condolences to the families of those who perished. This evil act of NATO criminals must give strength to the rest of us so that in the name of those who were killed, the rest of us become even more determined to defend our homeland. In accordance with that, I have asked you to come to the meeting here because I believe that we can find a mutual common ground due to the significance of Radio Television of Serbia and in view of the solidarity to all of the employees of Radio Television Serbia. I am hereby proposing that all private television stations carry the evening news of Radio Television Serbia. TV Politika, BK, Studio B, and Palma will make available their resources in order to defend the country and our freedom. Politika has served the interests of Serbian people for 95 years, and I don't see a reason why this should not be continued. Radio Television of Politika, although it has its own broadcasting programming, will accept to broadcast the evening news of Radio Television Serbia at 7:30 p.m. and 10 o'clock p.m. And this is how we shall express the support to our colleagues from Radio Television Serbia and also enrich our own news program. Radio Television Serbia can count on all of our available resources, broadcasting and other, any time of day and night. At this moment, the only television for me is the Radio Television of Serbia, because this is the only TV station in the world whose footage was shown throughout the world since this aggression has started, and it contributed to our success in letting the world know what is the truth. And I think that it is our duty, I speak for myself, to give our resources to Radio Television Serbia. As far as I'm concerned, I wish to help in any possible way, because this is our common struggle and our common interest. Federal Republic of Yugoslavia is celebrating tomorrow, April 27, a national day. This year, Yugoslavia is celebrating this national day in a state of war, attacked by NATO, who, led by United States, committed an unprecedented, brutal aggression in violation of UN Charter and international law. This aggression was aimed at separating Kosovo from Yugoslavia. On April 27, 1992, in Federal Parliament, the Constitution of Federal Republic of Yugoslavia and Declaration of Fundamental Principles were adopted. This was the sixth constitution from the founding of Yugoslavia in 1918. In the presence of both chambers, Republic Parliament, representatives of the federations, religious communities, and other dignitaries, the Constitution was promulgated. It defined Yugoslavia as a sovereign federal country based on the equality of citizens and republics. Present at the promulgating ceremony were Milošević, who was then president of Serbia, Mojmir Brulatović, president of Montenegro, Serbian Patriarch Pavle, dignitaries from religious communities, and diplomats from over 50 countries. In a declaration of fundamental principles, it was stated that Yugoslavia is a legal successor to former Yugoslavia, and that it will strictly comply with all of its previously agreed to obligations in the international area. The basic principle was that the right of Serbia and Montenegro to remain in a common state cannot be outweighed by the right of former members of the Federation to secede. Yugoslavia expressed in the declaration its readiness to respect the rights and interests of the seceded republics, stating that their recognition would follow the resolution of issues that arose with respect to secession. At that time, a new federation of Serbia and Montenegro was founded. The first country in the world who recognized the Yugoslavia as a legal successor was China, and at the same day, it was done by Russia as well. President of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Kornelis Somaruga, informed journalists today in Belgrade about the results of his first visit to Yugoslavia since the outset on March 24th of this dirty war against our country. President of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Kornelis Somaruga, following a meeting with Yugoslav officials, held a press conference for local and foreign journalists. Mr. Somaruga said that he had a very constructive one-hour conversation with President Milosevic and later with other Yugoslav officials and representatives of our Red Cross. He stated that the goal of his visit was the intensification of humanitarian activities for all those who need it in our country. He became acquainted with the consequences of bombing of civilian targets in Belgrade and visited destroyed sites in a boat on the Danube in Novi Sad. He stressed his grave concern for the direct and indirect consequences for the civilian population and expressed his condolences to those who were wounded and killed, and also those whose basic existence was destroyed by NATO bombing. UNHCR delegation expressed its desire to visit Kosovo and Metohija, and President Milosevic responded in a positive way. This was stated by Somaruga. The president's words were relayed by Somaruga to the journalists as follows: "We are opening all the roads to you to travel where you want in Kosovo and Metohija with a guarantee of your safety. The only thing we can't guarantee is the safety from NATO bombing." Somaruga also visited 3 American commandos and shook hands and talked to them. With respect to this visit, he said that Mr. Milosevic told him that there is not one prisoner in our country who could not be visited. Unfortunately, questions of foreign journalists dealt exclusively with the 3 above-mentioned American soldiers due to the tension at the hotel, at the press conference, and statements made by one of our journalists that foreigners were only concerned with the 3 alive and healthy American soldiers. Somaruga abruptly saying he was in a hurry adjourned the press conference. Efforts for reaching a political solution in Kosovo crisis are at the center of attention of Russian diplomacy. President Yeltsin talked to American President Clinton, while the head of Greek diplomacy and the American Deputy Secretary of State are also visiting Moscow at this moment. President of Russia Yeltsin talked to Bill Clinton on the situation of Yugoslavia. The telephone conversation lasted 1.5 hours. Based on this discussion, the results shall be announced at a later time. The presidents apparently agreed that the most important goal is creating a long-term peace in the Balkans. Russian Prime Minister Primakov stated that he was against the methods that U.S. used against Yugoslavia. Primakov warned that Russia could undertake some, as he said, asymmetrical actions. At the Kremlin meeting between President's Chief of Staff with the Chernomyrdin and Minister for Defense, the officials analyzed the current situation in Yugoslavia, and they concluded that the development of events clearly pointed to the deadlock in which NATO was currently, because NATO has not accomplished any of its stated goals. It simply caused a humanitarian catastrophe. This gives a realistic possibility to utilize the moment and through quick diplomatic actions move the situation in the positive direction of adopting political solutions. There is a great chance for Russia to play a constructive role based primarily on its determination that the crisis in Kosovo could only be solved peacefully. The possibility for playing a constructive role Russia sees in the fact that there are currently meetings underway in Moscow between Foreign Minister Ivanov and Special Envoy of Russian President to Yugoslavia Chernomyrdin with American Deputy Secretary of State Talbot. At the outset of the conversation with Talbot, Chernomyrdin stated that Russia was ready to offer several possible actions for the further political regulation of the crisis, which could be a starting basis in the upcoming meetings with NATO representatives. The details shall be announced at a later time, but the head of Greek diplomacy, Papandreou, and Canadian Foreign Minister Excorsi shall also be informed of the results of these meetings. They are currently staying in Moscow as well. Famous Italian writer Franco Cordelli stated that he supported those who fought for their freedom, culture, and country, and stated that a symbol of that to him was President Milosevic. In addition to that, Milosevic is a European, and thus he is much closer to me than any American. According to Cordelli, the aggression against Yugoslavia is in fact a war that Europe leads against itself. The United States is aware that they're about to lose their role of leader in Europe, and they provoked this war to show their strength. A Europe that includes Russia represents a danger for the United States, and this is why Clinton wants to scare Europe by breaking down Serbia. On the other hand, this is a first war that Europe leads against the United States for its independence. The problem is that Europe put Serbs in the first front and stated that Europe has always used Serbs, yesterday against Ottoman Empire and today against United States. Cordelli was also angry at the way that the media was using this war. I don't want to hear about ethnic cleansing. I don't agree with that. In London, there are indications that Great Britain continues to pressure the NATO machinery of media manipulation. The plans show the nervousness of those who are the greatest supporters of aggression against Yugoslavia and their struggle to convince the public of the righteousness of their war plans. NATO manipulations are headed by Alistair Campbell, press advisor of the British Prime Minister, who will be spending 3 days from now on at the NATO headquarters in Brussels to control manipulation of public. Downing Street up till now sent to Brussels 10 of its officials to manipulate the journalists and the public. London's Guardian emphasizes that the greatest strengthening for NATO is accomplished by the propaganda speechwriter of American President Jonathan Prince, who arrived in Europe today. Germany, France, and Holland will also send its people to the media machinery. It is quite possible that the media manipulation staff will be more numerous than the combat units. The leadership of German Social Democrats requested an immediate stop of the aggression against Yugoslavia and a chance to the diplomatic resolution of the crisis. Respected intellectuals from Willy Brandt's circle requested immediate cessation of NATO bombing of Yugoslavia. Among them were Egon Bahr, Günter Grass, the writer, and Friedrich Schollermer and others. Prime Minister of Province Saxony-Anhalt similarly advocated a stop to the aggression and finding a political solution. The Finnish Party of the Centre, the second most numerous in the parliament, condemned NATO bombing of Yugoslavia and advocated a peaceful resolution to the Kosovo problem. NATO attacks caused the tragic deaths of the innocent citizens of Yugoslavia. It is emphasized that Yugoslavia always expressed its readiness to resolve the problem in Kosovo through democratic means. West Macedonia is a huge tinderbox. This was confirmed by the most recent actions of the Macedonian police, which discovered not far from Struga a real bunker with more than 30 automatic rifles and 56,000 bullets. They originate from Albania. In the same village, the police recently discovered a depot with 260 bombs and some 10,000 pieces of ammunition of different calibers. In a deserted mine of Lojane, some 5 tons of heavy and light weapons were discovered, a great quantity of ammunition, as well as the headquarters of Albanian terrorist organization. Albanian terrorists are carrying out their activities in Macedonia. This was confirmed by Interior Minister of Macedonia, Pavle Trojanov. What do you think about Bill Clinton? What else can I think of him but all the worse? Do you think that there is a totalitarianism that is being carried out in Serbia for which we're accused? No, that's ridiculous. He's making it up. He's a sick man. He has that in his own country. Radio Television Serbia was bombed because allegedly it spread nationalism. Well, that's a pure lie. You know it for yourself. I don't know what television you come from, but you know that television always says the truth, and the only television that says the truth is Radio Television Serbia. We are not attacking anybody. He is attacking us. We are simply the victims of his own single-mindedness. I am speechless. He is not normal. A normal person would never do what he's doing. He accuses us of carrying out single-mindedness here. That's a lie. They simply want to justify their aggression against our poor people. Radio Television Serbia was bombed because allegedly it spread nationalism and lies about Albanian refugees. No, that's not true. That's not true. Of course it's not true. We are united and we want peace. We have to protect our country regardless of what is going on. He should come here and play saxophone on our square here. He should come and see what's happening. He's a sick man. He ought to see doctors. He should let us live and work. He shouldn't be doing this to us. Do you think that there is a totalitarianism here? No, he's saying that in order to destroy us. He wants to come here and be the ruler himself, but he can't do that because nobody interferes in his business in America. I don't know how he got into our civilization. He should be kicked out of here. And let me give you one more question. We are being accused that we are single-minded and totalitarian. No, he should see that that is happening in his own country. He needs to come here and see once for himself what is happening here. And let me just tell him something. He is a bloodthirsty animal. And this is coming from me. I've been living in Serbia for 20 years, and my family is in Croatia. I'm from Croatia, but nobody ever did anything evil to me. I just want to say that to him. And he should be ashamed of what he's doing as a president in America. Not a single country would allow to have a president like that. It's a great pity that he is a president. My mother is German. My father is a Romanian. And I was in executive function most of my life. I was successful in my career. And what I want to say that if we want everybody to have equal rights, there are also duties that come with these rights. And if you want the country to give you a good life, then you have to perform your own duties. And I have said this before, that Slobodan Milošević does not only have the benefit of Serbia and Yugoslavia in his mind, he has the benefit of the whole civilized world on his mind. A ceremonial meeting of 19 heads of NATO alliance states was held in Washington commemorating NATO's 50th anniversary. Due to the destruction of our satellite communication lines, we're unable to show film footage of summit of this criminal organization, nor the speeches of Solana or the host Bill Clinton. Solana's speech was short, only about 1 minute, but long enough for him to shamelessly express that, challenged by the Kosovo crisis, NATO was fighting for democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Of course, he omitted to add that NATO, to this end, destroys apartment buildings, civilian factories, schools, hospitals, monasteries, TV stations, bridges, roads, that it kills civilians, women, elderly, children, violating not only human and humanitarian rights and international conventions of war and treatment of civilians, but also its own rules which allow it to engage in war only if one of the member states is under attack. Arch-liar Clinton had a more prominent role in spreading untruths about the aggression in Yugoslavia. Every one of his sentences was filled with threats and lies. Clinton announced that the air campaign, this generalized military bureaucratic term coined by him to describe the the one-month bombing of vital targets and people in our country using the most destructive means which are today at the disposal of the most powerful world power, so that this air campaign will be continued until final victory. On this occasion, he did not say what he considered a victory, but according to his previous statements, it means that the capitulation of Yugoslavia and the acceptance of NATO forces on all of its territory. The reason for this air campaign is that Serbs, quote, burn and pillage houses and kill innocent Albanians, while at the same time NATO supplies them with food and ensures shelter for displaced persons, end of quote. As far as this assistance is concerned, the best witnesses to it would be some 70 Albanians who, while returning home, were killed by NATO criminals. Instead of bread and shelter, they showered them with deadly missiles because it was not in NATO's interest for Albanians to come back to their homes. Clinton needs refugees who are continuously running from Yugoslavia because they allegedly cannot take the terror of the Yugoslav police. If there are no refugees, then there is no reason for NATO aggression. Albanian refugees need to be produced constantly, either by bombing of Kosovo or placing Macedonian Albanians in front of cameras.
At 9 a.m. on our companion network C-SPAN 2, tomorrow's NATO briefing on the situation in Yugoslavia.